Crime is never easy to watch for anybody, especially when couples are joint criminals. And some of the couples in this list have done things that are so shocking and so spine-chilling that they will leave you sleepless at night. In this video, we are going to talk about a list of the top 5 couples who have done horrible, horrible things to people. So keep watching till the end. Number 5. Matthew Matthews. Defendant Cyrus Matthews appeared in court on misdemeanor charges related to a road rage incident. However, during the court proceedings, he decided to make a run for it and was charged with felony escape. Matthews' girlfriend followed him out of the courtroom, but there was a moment of hesitation before he took off. The bailiff tried to reason with him and explain the consequences of his actions, but Matthews didn't listen. Wadsworth police took over the chase, and Matthews reached speeds of up to 90 miles an hour. Passing on the right at Williams Reserve, the car chase escalated to a Code 2 at Akron. Matthews then crashed into a white SUV off the road, injuring the passengers and their infant child. When Officer Walser arrived at the scene, he realized that Matthews had made a horrible decision. Matthews was apprehended and taken to the hospital, where he was charged with aggravated felonious assault for injuring his girlfriend and the occupants of the other vehicle. He was sentenced to 425 days in jail. Matthews' girlfriend was not charged. Number 4. Jeremy and Christine Moody. Jeremy and Christine Moody, who were convicted of the first-degree murder of Charles Parker and his wife Gretchen, stood before Judge Lee Alford in South Carolina for their sentencing. The couple, who had already married, were also known to be neo-Nazis. The Moodys targeted Parker, whom they did not know, after finding his address in a sex offender state registry. They believed that God wanted them to eliminate all sex offenders. Surveillance footage from the Parker home helped police locate the killers, as did Jeremy's tattoos, including skinhead written across his neck and white power atop his head. The couple confessed to their crime and also stated that they planned to kill more sex offenders. During their sentencing, the Moodys pleaded for mercy and the minimum sentence of 30 years in prison. Christine Moody apologized for breaking the commandment, "Thou shalt not kill," and said she hoped to work with God's forgiveness. After hearing their statements, Judge Alford sentenced both Jeremy and Christine Moody to life in prison with no chance of parole. As the couple exited the court, they shared a final kiss before being separated. However, any remorse they tried to convey quickly disappeared as they expressed their true feelings outside the courthouse. When asked if they had any regrets, Christine responded by saying that killing a pedophile was the best day of her life. Both Jeremy and Christine Moody were sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole. Number 3. Dia Milberg. Dia Milberg, a 41-year-old woman, was in Ogden, Utah for her sentencing. 3 years prior to this, Dia, her husband, and their 16-year-old babysitter, Alexis Rasmussen, were engaging in sexual activity while sharing alcohol, marijuana, and prescription drugs at the couple's home. Eric Millerberg, a convicted felon, injected Alexis with her third dose of heroin and methamphetamine, causing an overdose that ultimately led to her death. The couple drove Alexis's body to a remote area and buried her in a shallow grave because they feared Eric would be sent back to prison if they alerted authorities. Alexis remained missing for over a month until a tip from a confidential informant led the police to her body and back to the Millerbergs. Dia made an agreement with the prosecution to testify against her husband and, in exchange for a reduced sentence, pleaded guilty to obstructing justice, unlawfully acquiring prescription drugs, and desecrating a dead body. For 3 years, Dia was allowed to live free out on bail and regained custody of her infant and elementary school-aged child. However, at her sentencing, she faced up to 15 years in prison. Before learning her sentence, Dia turned to face Alexis's family and expressed her disgust and dream of Paul for what she had done. She thanked the family for allowing her to say her piece, and said that she had no way to express the magnitude of guilt she felt for Alexis. Judge W. Brent West ultimately sentenced Dia to serve an indeterminate term of 0 to 5 years in the Utah State Prison. Dia served 4 years and 2 months in state prison, while her husband, Eric Millerberg, was sentenced to 6 years to life in prison after being convicted of child abuse homicide, obstruction of justice, unlawful sexual conduct with a minor, and abuse or desecration of a body. Number 2. Larissa Rodriguez. The case being discussed involves Larissa Rodriguez and her boyfriend Christopher Rodriguez, who is being sentenced for the death of her 5-year-old son Jordan. Christopher brought the boy, who had developmental needs, to his mother in a semi-conscious state. She gave him a cold shower and put him to bed. The next day, the child was found dead. Instead of calling 911, the couple covered the child in blankets and bags full of mothballs and buried him in their own backyard. Nearly 2 months later, police arrived at their home after receiving a tip from Christopher's brother, who said the boy was buried in the backyard. Larissa Rodriguez and Christopher Rodriguez were charged. and the couple entered into a plea deal, with murder charges dropped in exchange for pleading guilty to involuntary manslaughter, felonious assault, 2 counts of child endangerment, and abuse of a corpse. Judge Nancy Margaret Russo imposed a sentence on Larissa Rodriguez first, with counts 1, 2, and 3 to be served consecutively to each other and concurrently to the sentence imposed in count 5, for a total sentence of 25 years. Before sentencing Christopher Rodriguez, Judge Russo made a statement saying that this was one of the worst things she had ever seen in her 22-year career as a judge. She said that Christopher and Larissa had every opportunity to call for help, but instead, they tried to hide evidence to protect themselves. Judge Russo sentenced Christopher Rodriguez to a total sentence of 28 years, 3 years beyond the recommended maximum the attorneys had agreed upon. The ruling was upheld on appeal, and the couple is currently serving their terms in separate locations in the Ohio prison system. Number 1. Jonathan Hearn. We are headed to Bakersfield, California for the sentencing of Jonathan Hearn. He is a 27-year-old who pleaded guilty to manslaughter in the death of Robert Lyman. Hearn killed Lyman because he was having an affair with Lyman's wife, Sabrina. The Lymans were part of a local swingers club, and at first Lyman was okay with the affair. However, when he later asked his wife to stop seeing Hearn, she and Hearn put a plan into action. Instead of divorce, Hearn went to Lyman's workplace and shot the father of 2. The state charged Hearn with murder, but they also wanted to charge Sabrina. Hearn agreed to testify against her to avoid a possible life sentence. In Hearn's testimony, he describes the affair as primarily emotional, though they were also hooking up from time to time. They discussed things that normal people who are dating or going out probably wouldn't discuss. Eventually, the couple began discussing ways to eliminate Lyman, and it turned from humor into something that actually began to materialize. After a jury found Lyman guilty of murder conspiracy and being an accessory, Hearn pleaded guilty to manslaughter and went before Judge John Brownlee to learn his sentence. Hearn offers a heartfelt apology to Robert's family and friends for his pride, lust, and anger, and for stealing their brother and friend. He apologizes for his involvement with Robert's wife and the grief he caused Robert's mother and 2 children. Judge Brown passes Hearn's sentence. The defendant is sentenced to 25 years and 4 months in prison. Due to his guilty plea, Hearn is eligible for parole in 2028, when he would be just 38 years old. 3 months later, Sabrina goes before the same judge to learn her sentence. She's found guilty of murder in the first degree and sentenced to 25 years without parole until 2036, when she would be 56. Clearly, these are some horrible couples who have shocked the humanity inside of us, and they deserve the harshest of punishments for it. They deserve to be locked up for as long as possible. Now, hopefully, this sends a message to society, and hopefully no one else has to go through this. If you found this video interesting and it kept you on the edge of your seat, then hit the like button. For more such videos, subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon.